What are you endorsing yourself for? What are you proud of? Are you, if you're noticing anything, great. Coming out outcomes different, great. We celebrate those. But first, we celebrate taking the right actions, getting the ahas, doing the things, that in itself, right? We celebrate those and we just take the actions. Outcomes aren't up to us. If we're expecting outcomes and we only celebrate the outcomes, we're being transactional with our bodies and we're telling her, hey, behave because I did this thing for you, now give. And that doesn't work. It's not loving, right? We've been talking about the framework of self-love. It's not that, it's not the same as self-care, but what is self-love? And it's treating her like she is a blessing to us, which she is. She's the only reason that we have a vehicle to be in this 3D reality. So we want to treat her with that respect because we haven't been. And that's part of the reason that got us where we are. So when we celebrate the wins, we really affirm that I don't treat my body as an object. I'm not transactional. I am loving, right? I am giving, loving, love, attention, validation, approval. So it's affirming that. So if you're having trouble doing that, ask yourself, good journaling prompt, why do I have trouble celebrating the things that I do right? Great question for yourself. And that a lot of times comes from perfectionism. I can't celebrate till it's perfect. I can't be grateful till it's perfect. I can't appreciate myself till I'm perfect. There is no perfect. It doesn't exist. And you can spend your whole life chasing it and then get to the end of your life and go, wow, I wish I had celebrated who I was exactly in my human mess, because that's as good as it gets. And I spent my whole life trying to seek this perfection. And then I was going to breathe and do all the things. And I never got there because it doesn't exist. It's this fantasy that we create. And we spend our whole lives trying to get there. What would it look like? Another great journal prompt. If I just let myself be okay with who I am right now, doing what I'm doing, and I celebrated all the little things that I did. What would that look like? Dread of all women. We have been told, most of us, since we were little girls, be selfless. Don't be selfish. It's bad. Men don't have that so much trained into them culturally. But in our culture, oh, that's one of the, it's the eighth deadly sin for a woman to give to herself and put herself first and say no and take time for herself and invest in herself. Oh, that's a selfish woman. Ooh. Why do I feel guilty when I do invest in myself in this way? Would I feel that way if I knew, like, I love to frame it as if this were my sister and she were having these health challenges, and I saw her doing all these things. Oh, I would say, good for you, and you deserve that, and all this. But when it's me, I feel guilty. Why? Because I was trained that I had to be a human doing and giving machine and give to everyone. And if I wasn't giving until I was bleeding, I wasn't giving enough. We come by this belief, honestly, but here we get to unpack all these beliefs and go. So I have that see it process in the Awakening the Spirit module in that workbook. And the way I outlined it was in relation to when you see yourself doing something that's not in your best interest. And the example I gave was around food. When you see yourself eating something that's not in your best interest, you do the see it process. You see yourself doing the behavior. You evaluate it for what are the thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions that came before this actual putting the thing in my mouth. And then what is the underlying belief under it? And I think the example I gave was a woman who was distraught about her kid who was upset about not getting an A on a test that they studied for a lot. And then she couldn't alleviate the distress in her child. And so she had this underlying belief that to be a good mother, she had to be able to alleviate any distress in her child. And if her child's distressed and she can't alleviate it, she's a bad mother. And then next thing you know, she's putting this in her mouth because that's going to medicate that pain. And so then she can say, do I really believe that No, my child is just going to have some things that are distressing that I'm not going to be able to solve for them. And they're going to have to learn how to work through that frustration. And I am a good mother, even if that happens. And so once she saw that and she said, okay, I'm going to reframe that, she put an affirmation on her fridge. And every time that situation came up, she said, I am a good mother. I'm here and being present with my child. And so it's true for anything. You can use this. I see myself feeling guilty, ruminating. I shouldn't have spent all that money. I shouldn't be spending all this time on all these self-care things, IVs and cryo and all this. I feel guilty. Well, what are the thoughts and feelings and actions and beliefs that go into making me feel guilty? And where did this come from? Oh, it is selfish to invest time and money into my health. I have this belief. Where did I get this belief? Do I really want to believe that? Well, no. Now that I'm aware, I know that my health is my most valuable asset. It's the only thing that gives me time to have any relationships, to have a house to live in, to have anything else in my life. Like when I die, on my tombstone is going to be 2 dates with a dash in the middle. And that dash represents the vitality and stability of this vehicle. So should I feel guilty when I invest in my health? Well, no, I should be proud. And then you can really make some affirmations and put them where you're going to see them. Like, I am proud of investing time and money in my health. It's the only thing, my health is the only thing that gives me time to have anything else in this life. And just every time those feelings come up, uh, countering it with, no, this is the truth. This is the truth. Now we might have some feelings that come up because emotions are energy in motion and we're feeling guilty. It's usually not enough just to counter it with a reality check of the truth. We have feelings that have to be dealt with, and feelings need to move through us. How do we get that guilt out of us? Maybe we talk about it. Maybe we anger with a pillow and beat it with a tennis racket. The fact that we had these negative projections put into us, these negative beliefs from society. And maybe I've got to beat a pillow and scream about it. It's not fair. Why was I taught, to hate myself in this way? Maybe it's angering, it's talking about it, but maybe it's some creative pursuit. I'm going to take that, I'm going to sit with that and I'm just going to doodle on a piece of paper or color and maybe just feel the feelings. Maybe I'm going to remember some childhood scenes where I was made to feel guilty. I mean, I remember clearly being told by adults, you're so selfish. You need to be giving to your sister more. I mean, you remember, can you think back and remember some scenes where you were clearly told you were selfish? And you were bad because you were selfish. So think back, maybe I do that doodling and I just sit and listen with some music, but I've got to get those emotions out because feelings buried alive never die and they're in there waiting for situations to come in to feel guilty about. So I've got to deal with the guilt too, but I can take contrary action, focus on the truth, do affirmations, allow the feelings to pass through me, take contrary action. And yeah, you're using better ingredients in cooking. Allulose is problematic for a lot of people, and even, anytime we're talking about making a baked good, you're talking about processed materials you're putting in something. And that can be problematic for a lot of us, especially when we haven't completely gotten our pendulum from all the way over here to here, where we've gotten optimized in all areas. It's like if we're not far enough through our journey, sometimes little things can set us back. But what you will find is that the further you go, the better your resilience gets and your body can tolerate more. Like I was able to eat a non-bread with gluten last week, didn't miss a beat, right? And so it's a once every 3 to 6 months thing, and I'm fine. But the allulose, some of these sugar alcohols are very hard for people as artificial sweeteners. They're particularly can be inflammatory in the GI tract, and they just cause all kinds of water balance imbalances and just things. So you learn something, right? Note, whatever was in here, my body right now is not happy with. And so then you can make different choices. But, and definitely endorse yourself for doing it differently and learning something. That's a win. I don't know unless I try, right? And it's so I can sit here and go all day. I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy. But if I'm not willing to learn new things and try different things, I'll never figure out for my unique, precious vehicle, what do I need to do? And so I think the bravest, and like Brene Brown talks about, like those of us who are in the ring, doing the thing, failing, falling on our face, thinking I can't get this, but trying, that's the victory. We'll never get to the perfection where, oh, I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to do it all perfect. I have the perfect life, the perfect house, cars, children, family, friends. I'm going to be perfect. It just doesn't exist. It's those of us who are in the ring, marring our faces with mud, trying and learning and celebrating the little wins. I was able to get my head up out of the mud and just try something different. That's what we celebrate. And it's like when we start celebrating that and realizing that that is life, then we start getting different outcomes and then we can celebrate those. But as long as we're focused on the outcome, we're sitting on the sidelines, most of us, like armchair quarterbacks. Yeah, I'm going to find the perfect thing and then I'm going to do the thing. And it never happens. And then our health is declining. And then we're, 50, 60, 70, 80, like I'm going to do the thing. And then most of us don't really move until we get the wake up call. And the wake up call, you know what it is. You have cancer. You have a horrible autoimmune disease. You have some terminal condition that's now an anatomic problem that basically we have to go to heroic measures and the outcomes are not good. And then, like I see my friend, the general surgeon, after she gets the colon cancer diagnosis at the health food store, looking for some herbs that are going to help her. What can you do then? It's too late. What to do? So you're here, but I want to hear you celebrating yourselves as if you are the badasses that you are, because you bought a ticket on the ride. Now celebrate yourself for every little thing that you do and watch how she responds to you by giving you the things that you've been seeking, and stop looking for her to give them to you, but you'll find when you really start endorsing her and like, I did this right. I did that. I did this. I did this. I want you to be like a kid who's just so pleased with herself. And then watch what happens in your neighborhood, because Maria did resistance training, input, right? Took an action. And, oh, by the way, didn't have a crash after. That is worth celebrating. That's huge. That's amazing. That's another thing that we've been trained to believe, is that our bodies should comply with our modern day requirements of what we think life should look like, right? And it's not how it works. She will be served or she will cause problems, And so with the pooping, a lot of people, you're not the only one I've heard say that. I don't want to be pooping throughout the day. Well, you know what? Your body needs that. And if you're not, you're backing up the sewer and toxic. So take your pick. I want convenience or I want to be healthy. And so welcoming in that, and when you're pooping really well, it doesn't take much more time to poop than it does to pee. You can go in the bathroom and it just slides right out and you're on your way. So I think that's amazing, because what it means is that your system has gotten clean and balanced enough in hormonal prosperity that now it has the energy to react when something comes in your internal environment that it's not happy with. what happens when we are so overwrought in hormonal poverty is that your body basically just gives up. She says, I've been sending signals to this woman for years, decades. I've been making her tired. I've been making her want an afternoon nap. I've been making her have no sex drive, hair loss, irritability, memory problems, skin problems, you name it. You know what I'm talking about, the 60 plus symptoms of midlife metabolic mayhem. And she hasn't listened. I'm not even going to bother anymore because it costs your body energy to make you have a symptom. And when your body's energy is limited in hormonal poverty and you're not listening to the symptoms, it's like shouting at a deaf person. It's pointless. The body just says, I'm not spending energy on this anymore. And all these symptoms become what we call masked. So some of them become entrenched where you just have them all the time. I'm tired all the time. My hair's not growing all the time, right? All these things. But even the little symptoms, if you're to eat something that your body reacts adversely to, it's not going to give you any gastrointestinal symptoms. It's not going to give you any symptoms. And so we work to identify the causes of hormonal poverty, correct them, get to hormonal prosperity. But you know that you're really making progress when you get to the point that you just described. Now you ate something and your body pretty immediately told you, no, no bueno, I don't like it. I don't like it. It gave you symptoms. It had the energy to give symptoms. It knows you're listening and it says no, and it lets you know clearly this is not for you. That's called unmasking. Unmasking. So before, when we're just totally lost in midlife metabolic mayhem, hormonal poverty, all these things become masked to a large degree. And when we do enough work to get into hormonal prosperity and we've gotten a certain amount of progress, then these things become unmasked and we can start to know and navigate real time. This is good for me. This is not good for me. This is good for me. This exercise is good. This exercise is bad. This activity is good. This activity is bad. This food is good. This food is bad. We start to know it real time. And she becomes the GPS again that she was always intended for us to be. She always was this from the time we were born. But we were told, don't eat when you're hungry. You eat at the times our family says we eat. That's when you eat. And so here you are, a little kid, and you're like, but I'm hungry. And the family's like, no, dinner's at 6. So you override your internal signals and you tell her, shut up, dinner's at 6. And then you go to school and it's the same thing. Going to the bathroom is a good example. Oh, Miss Smith, may I go to the bathroom? No, you can go when class is over. So what do you start to do? Inhibit your urinary and gastrointestinal symptoms, and you don't listen to when they're telling you, I gotta pee, I gotta poo. You're like, shut up, we gotta wait till class is over. We gotta wait till recess. We gotta wait till lunch break. And we are systematically trained away from our natural way of being. And it just happens in so many areas of our lives. We're never given license to live the way our bodies have an intelligence to bring us to health. It has this intelligence that makes us healthy. Oh, and even what we choose to eat. When we're kids, we don't get to say, oh, I don't like that. Like my parents, my mom, it was insistent that I eat liver, and I hated liver when I was a kid. And if I didn't eat what she gave me, liver, guess what? I didn't eat at all. And there were plenty of nights I went to bed with no dinner. And fast forward, it's like your body knows what it wants to eat and doesn't want to eat. But we're trained away from that. And then we're trained away from it by commercially prepared foods that prostitute and exploit our natural biological preference for fat, sugar, and salt. So then introduce processed foods with a lot of fat, sugar, and salt. You know what I'm talking about, potato chips. And then we get a taste of that when we're kids, and our brain is hijacked to want that. And then you see these kids that don't want to eat vegetables, they just want potato chips, and they call that a vegetable. But they wouldn't naturally, if they had never tasted a potato chip, they probably would love vegetables. So I'm off on a tangent, but I just want to emphasize this point that you're making because I think it's huge. And so these are some of the signposts in your health recovery that you want to look for. And what I find is that most people start looking for this signpost too soon. They're like, oh, it's been a month. I'm going to eat this thing and see how my body feels. And then they eat it and they don't feel terrible. So they think I can eat this thing. But the truth is you didn't get to the stage where these things, you're clean enough and in enough hormonal prosperity that you are unmasked. So you really have to have this period of, I find it 6 to 9 months, where you can get enough unmasking that then your body starts becoming a true GPS again for you. Some people it takes longer, some people it takes a shorter amount of time. But if you try doing it too early, then you might falsely believe that, oh, I'm good now. And this is why I think there are a lot of people you'll see online, oh, I don't think gluten's a problem for me. I stopped eating it for a month and I didn't feel any different. And then I started back and I didn't feel any different. It's because you didn't address the other mountain of hormonal poverty issues that you have. It's not that gluten's not a part of the problem, because for most of us, it is a part of the problem. And the only way to sort that out is to leave it alone for a long period of time. So a self-expression is such a part of this, along with the we can't be selfish is we can't be too loud, too expressive, too much. Yeah, I was totally that one. Too much, too loud, too this, too that. And it's just who I am. And so this silencing of this fifth chakra, which is our authenticity and our self-expression. So part of it is the literal voice, speaking, singing, but part of it is our figurative voice of how we express ourselves. We express ourselves with what our interests are. And the clothes we wear, where we live, how we live our lives. This is all part of our authenticity. And many women were taught as children that we weren't acceptable, like I wanted to wear jeans and t-shirts to everything, and I was shamed for that as a kid. And so then I got this message, like what I feel authentically called to do is not okay. And so this is why, one of the reasons why, in my opinion, women have more thyroid problems is because our authenticity more than men is very much shut down. I mean, they've got their own burden with that. They can't be too feminine, right? They can't cry, they can't do all these things. And we've got our burden with that. And so really actively working against that. And so I love that you did that. You said yes to that. You went, you sang the karaoke. I would have loved to have been there. That's amazing.